Okay. Oh, is that sweat patches? Wow. Obviously, I'm going to cut that out. That's so gross. I didn't even know I was that hot. I'm sweating. If I was ever in a interrogation, all you have to do is lift up my armpits. Like in, what's it called? Nick and New Girl. I feel like that's me. Whenever I'm stressed or nervous, which I probably actually shouldn't be admitting on the internet just in case. But like whenever I'm stressed or nervous, sweat. Okay. Hello and welcome back to Losing the Plot with Ashley. It has been a week. And honestly, if you're someone that scrolls the internet or engages with media, and I think with this podcast, I've had to engage with media way more than I usually would on social media. It is rough for us out here if you give a shit about the world. There are many things this week that have made me feel like, what is happening? Many, many things. But I would say the point that I tapped out was probably when I saw Nicki Minaj walk out hand in hand, claw in claw with the president. And at that point, I thought, you know what? Fine. I don't know what reality we're living in. Is this real? But to be fair, she's a lady that is consistent. And lady is very kind, probably to say. But she's a lady that is consistent. All you need to really do is look at her brother, look at her husband. And she has a type. She has a type of man that she likes to support. And she's consistent with that. So, here's the consistency. There's so many other things that are going on. And honestly, I feel like, if you're an OG that listened to the first episode, you know that I had a big kind of conversation about can we separate the art from the artist? And at this point, I'm just tired. I can't, they need to relax. Okay, I'm finding it hard to be able to keep up of who's being cancelled, who's doing what absolute tomfoolery. So I think everyone just needs to take a pause so we can keep up with our list of who we're actually listening to and who we're not. But do you know what? In other news, the UK has been freezing cold. And honestly, growing up, I don't remember it being so cold after Christmas time. And I mean, it sucks because I guess before the holidays, you have Halloween and you have all these other holidays. And then after Christmas, it's kind of like it's cold. No one has any money. And there's, everyone's kind of inside and there's less to look forward to unless you're a Aquarius and Capricorn. And to those, I say I'm sorry and I celebrate you and I love you. But it is absolutely freezing and I don't think I am made for these types of climates, I've decided. But I was actually on a walk the other day with my friend and I looked up and I saw the most insane, beautiful green birds. And if there's anyone who lives in London listening to this, maybe you've seen them before. They're called parakeets. And if you could just indulge with me for a tiny bit, because I am going to go on a tangent. These parakeets are so beautiful. They're, I think, in the parrot family. And they, spoiler alert, they're not native to the UK. Their law does go off crazy, though. I think they were taken over here or brought over here against their will, I've heard that before. They're brought over here against their will in the 19th to 20th century, I think, with the pet trade. And I don't know, there's a lot of rumors about how they ended up here, but for some reason or the other, someone let them go or they escaped and they not only survived, but they thrived in London. And I don't know if they're anywhere else in the UK, I have to look up, but definitely in London. And they thrived against all odds. They thrived in this climate. And honestly, I was looking at them and I was thinking, inspo. Honestly, for real, because if they can thrive in this climate and it's not their homeland, then who am I? But what I will say is it's very ironic to me that they are called an invasive species. So not only were they brought here against their will, they made it their home and they thrive. I mean, God forbid a bird thrives against all odds. But I thought it was very ironic that, being brought here against your will, you thrive, and then you're told you need to go home. Not heard that one before. Okay. Thank you for indulging in my, hyper-fixation topic of the day, of the moment. Honestly, I think deep down I am a little bit of a nerd. I love to go into the lore of something random, so thanks for indulging with me. Okay, let's get into the episode, shall we? Okay, so I just first wanted to start getting into talking a little bit about ADHD. Because I was really reflecting the other day about when I was personally diagnosed. It was during the pandemic, so around 2020. I think I was like, how old was I? 25, 24. And when I was Googling, all the different definitions of ADHD and trying to assess, like, does this resonate with me? Is this who I am? Let me read you what the NHS kind of categorizes ADHD. This is straight from Google. It says, inattention, easily distracted, struggles to listen, forgets tasks, difficulty organizing, can't stick to boring tasks. That's 1 point out of the 3. Number 2 is hyperactivity, fidgeting, restlessness, excessive talking, difficulty staying still. And number 3 is impulsivity. Something like that. Impulsivity. It feels like it's wrong, but I think it's right. Acting without thinking, interrupting, difficulty waiting, impulsive decisions. And I read that and I thought, wow, that is pretty bleak. And I thought, why so negative? Do you know what I mean? Like, reading this, I remember feeling so embarrassed and thinking, okay, so I'm hyperactive. I can't listen. Apparently, I can't focus. So I should just go fuck myself, basically. Because a lot of these things are I think they're associated with very antisocial behavior. They're not necessarily things that are accepted in, modern day society. And I just remember feeling so embarrassed and thinking, well, I guess I struggle with some of these things at some points, but it's really out of perspective. So this week, I would like my plotting, what I would like to plot is, can we, when we're looking at diagnosing ADHD, alongside the difficulties, because there are a lot of struggles and challenges, but can we also look at some of the positives when we're looking at diagnosing people? Because growing up, I was someone that had to work twice as hard. I would listen twice as hard, and I was focused so much on, I think now I realize this is what it's called, masking. I would work so hard to make sure that I looked like everyone else. And I remember thinking, things don't come, there's certain things that might not come as easy to me, but I know if I work twice as hard, I can be better at it. And I think, if I was a teenager or if I was a child and I was going through some of these criterias and these were all the things that were kind of laid before me, it's honestly a little bit defeatist. And I think there are so many creatives, entrepreneurs, businessmen, and successful people who are neurodiverse and have ADHD or dyslexia or autism. And, for me personally, even though it has 100% come with its challenges, I really do feel like having ADHD has been a superpower for me, mainly because you're able to see things in such a different way. And I think, is the reason why I was so drawn to the movies, because it's not just you're looking at the words on a page or, if you're writing, you are looking at the words on the page, and at the same time, you're also thinking about the soundtrack. And at the same time, you're also thinking about the lighting. And then when you're thinking about the lighting, you're thinking, okay, if I needed this lighting at this time, how could I do that in the most efficient way? And then you go on this whole kind of, journey, and I don't know if anyone's seen The Queen's Gambit. I feel like there are times where I'm passionate about a project that I can just see everything from a bird's eye view. It's not necessarily pieces on the ceiling, but like it's definitely, I can see a whole, array of steps that I don't think necessarily everyone can see. I think other, maybe neurodiverse people can kind of relate to that. And listen, it does, like I said, I would love, honestly, and I'm putting together an episode with an actual expert, so I can go into ADHD in more details. I can talk about my experience of, medication versus not being on medication and the journey of being diagnosed and the positive, the negative, the challenges. So I'm definitely going to talk about it in more detail. But honestly, I was just this week, I'm thinking we need to be spinning it into more of a positive, in my opinion, when diagnosing people. Because yes, there's lots of challenges up ahead, but you have just become a member of a very elite club. Okay, so talking about ADHD and elite club, I would say my ADHD, honestly, I think allows me to feel and think a lot deeper as well, because the types of things, honestly, that will spike my dopamine are so like small. Like I'll be walking in a park or somewhere and I'll see a little squirrel and it looks so cute and it has the funnest personality, and I will be over the moon and be watching this squirrel for as long as it will let me. And that generally fires up all the dopamine in my brain. And I think to have that type of wonderment is so special. And, if I didn't have ADHD, I don't know if that would be the case. But another very fun thing I would say is hyper-fixations. And over the years, I would say I've had many hyper-fixations. And listen, I have taken up so many different sports, so many different hobbies. I'm pretty sure during the pandemic, I tried to make candles and a candle business. And what did I call it? I honestly can't remember what I called it. I mean, I feel like everyone was making all sorts during the pandemic, but I definitely have been a kid that would try loads of different things. And a hyperfixation that has always been a constant for me has been music. I feel sorry for whoever has to listen to me on a road trip, because if I have a hyperfixation song, that's it. It will be on repeat until I'm sick to death of it. And honestly, it's the same when it comes to soundtracks. So I have, do you know what? I'm going to share with you my top 5, because I hyperfixated over so many theme tunes growing up and into adulthood. And honestly, some of them are really fun. So I'm going to start off. Obviously, again, I don't have the rights to these songs, so I'm going to have to apologize in advance. It's going to be Ashley's rendition of them. So these had me in a chokehold growing up. And I would say we're going to start with number 5, Kim Possible. When that beep, 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 beep. I don't know if, I didn't actually grow up with Disney Channel in my house, but my nanny, my grandma had Disney Channel. So whenever I would have a sleepover, the next morning, call me, beep me if you want to reach me. Christiana, I'm so sorry. Christiana Millen. I just want to preface by saying I am dyslexic and it's not me doing this on purpose. She really went off on that one. And that is, the vocals, I just can't wait. So good. So that is coming in at number 5. Number 4, and this is honestly mainly just for my UK people, Tracy Beaker. The Tracy Beaker soundtrack. Da, 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 da. I can make my world come true. That one, let me tell you. And then when Stormzy did a rendition, it's really embarrassing to admit, but I used to rewind, mainly because, I guess I am a little bit impatient at times, and I just want to skip to my favorite part of the song. So I would skip to the part where he would sing that little Tracy Beaker bit sometimes. I think the song was what was it called? Superheroes. The first time I heard that, I was like, wow. and they sampled Tracy Beaker. Oh my goodness. Side note, if anyone hasn't seen Tracy Beaker, I do wonder how it would land now, because the whole premise is it's basically, just a little side note. It's like she is a foster kid in like a big foster home, and her mum left her for Hollywood ? Which, if anyone's seen Nativity, where the movie, which is honestly, it's one of my favorite Christmas movies, and they say, we're going to Hollywood. That is what Tracy's mum really felt in the moment, and she had to leave her behind, because who wants to go to Hollywood with kids? I can really understand. No, I'm joking. I can't understand. It was very sad. But it is a great show, and I recommend rewatching if you haven't watched it or have watched it. Watch it for the first time. Okay, back to the list. Number 3, and this was a classic. I would put this on, honestly, in the car all the time. That's So Raven. That's so Raven. It's the future I can see. It's so mysterious to me. It was mysterious to me how that wasn't number 1 in the charts. That's what was mysterious to me. Because that's so Raven. That, oh my goodness. I honestly, it's sickening probably how much I used to listen to that. And honestly, it was something I would put on if I was like in a bad mood or feeling down. Like, I'm someone that if I've had a stressful day, I put music on and I'll dance to myself. And I think, it's always been my place of escape, music, singing, performing, whatever. And that's So Raven. We are coming in hot in the top 3. Okay, number 2. And listen, this is a little bit unexpected maybe for some. It's a different theme. But number 2 is the Succession intro. Hear me out. Because when I say I hear the first bar, or the first 8 bars of that little piano, I'm not doing the rendition very well, but I need you to look it up, because, and again, I'm really like, airing myself out here, but if I have like an important interview or, like a new job, or or honestly, if I just need to get a lot of stuff done and I'm like, okay, I need to take on an alter ego of someone that just gets shit done. If I need to topple an empire, I will. If I need to build an empire, I will. I'll put on that soundtrack, a whole nother persona, and I can do anything. And God forbid anyone gets in my way as I'm doing that. And I don't know what it is about that soundtrack, but it honestly inject it into my veins because I love it. I will listen to it on repeat. If you see me walking on the street in a type of way, it's probably that is playing in my ears. And then, number 1. And honestly, this one, I was a lot later to the party to discover. It was actually my friend Manla that introduced it to me, and it is the Proud Family theme tune. I think it's Destiny's Child and Solange. Oh my God. Literally, I'm pretty sure that would be my song that, if Vecna had that little, like, what was it called? The testicle? No. Not testicle. Was it? Tentacle. Not testicle. Vecna with his tentacle. If that was in my mouth. Okay. It's going down a slippery slide that I didn't intend it to be. But you know what I mean. If you've watched Stranger Things where they're like being, forced to drink that bloody juice with the tentacle, that is what would spring me out of my slumber, is they'll make you scream and make you want to sing family, family, proud. That would unearth me from the upside down or the inside out or the abyss, wherever it was they all ended up on that mind flare land, whatever. Wow. Vecna could never get me if that song was playing. And that is for real. I can generally say that I'm pretty sure my Spotify Wrapped, I'm pretty sure, like, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 2024, 2023. It had it within my Spotify Wrapped, and I was so embarrassed I could not share it online. But yeah, sorry. Talking about Stranger Things, though, there's been a lot of mixed reactions, I think, to the final season. And, you know, not like anyone probably cares what I have to say, but I am going to share. I personally loved elements of the last season. And I think it is one of the most, you know, unique shows to do kind of horror that is for, you know, with kids but not for kids. And I really did love loads of elements of the final season, but they definitely, I just think they played it a bit too safe because, and maybe this is bad, like no one really wants to see them kill off a load of characters, but I do. Kill them all off. Like, you know, especially if it's the last season, they're not probably going to be reprising these roles. Like, I think we love, you know, I love to see and love when I'm watching a series or a movie when it's so unexpected and so like gut-wrenching that they kill off, you know, 1, 2, 3 characters. Basically, one of the kids had to die. Maybe 2. I know that they ambiguously, spoiler alert, by the way, sorry if you've not finished it, they ambiguously killed off 11, but also she's still alive, Like, I don't know about that one. But yeah, I think loved it, but really do think they maybe played it a little bit too safe and they just had to, you know, red wedding it and take us all by surprise. And it would have been hard, but I would have been like, wow. Okay, right. Moving on. So I do have a very special episode coming after this one, but just a disclaimer, I did actually record it in a different order. So what I'm about to talk about, I may contradict myself in the next episode, so I just need you to bear with. But recently I watched Hamnet. Wow. And I'm going to have to just take a minute because that movie, I mean, I read a Guardian article that kind of, I just really disagreed with, that kind of said that, you know, we don't need to make people cry for the sake of it, And I don't know, I just feel like whoever wrote that Guardian article really missed the whole point of the movie. Because I have never felt so seen in grief than I did watching that movie. And I think there's something, and I feel like it's very hard to describe until you've experienced grief or if you've seen someone you love die and or are physically with them when they've died as well. I think that is a very, very unique situation and feeling. But that kind of primal scream and that like gut-wrenching hit of emotion, I've just never seen betrayed so well in that way. Jessie Buckley. And honestly, like, you know, I think it's very hard to describe to people who haven't experienced that level of grief or grief from someone that they're that close to. And that movie really made me feel seen. It was so simple and so complex. I think all of Jessie's, you know, kind of decisions throughout the whole movie was spot on. Paul was great too, but, you know, and love him. And I really loved how they played against each other. But you know, Jessie was, wow. And I really hope that she wins the Oscar for that. If she doesn't, I'll be like, well, what's the point? What is the point? But no, I really, yeah, it was heavy. And honestly, I came out of the movie and I felt like it unlocked, I don't know. The way I deal with my grief really is at the beginning, it would come out whenever it wanted to come out. And as time has gone on and I've gone from being in the eye of the storm to kind of being the debris that is kind of circulating, and I can see the eye of the storm and I can see what had happened to me and, had happened with the grief, but I'm no longer, in the middle of it. I can see it from the outside. And, I feel like I put off dealing with my grief for a very, very long time, and I pushed it down. And watching that movie when it came out, I just kept crying. But I don't know if it was like sadness tears or just like, I don't know, like a relief or something. But I've honestly been trying to do things that emote me feeling my grief as opposed to avoiding it, so that it doesn't build up. And I think watching a movie about grief was a really good step. So, round of applause. Let's give Jessie the Oscar. And talking about Oscars, Sinners got 16 nominations, which I'm pretty sure my research is a record, which is so insane. And honestly, I think it is very exciting for, or hopefully will be exciting for independent filmmakers or people who just don't want to make the same thing. And like, I love movies with all my heart, but I just feel like at the moment and for a very long time, they've been so, studios or whoever it is, the finances have been so nervous about putting out any stories that are new. And I think there's other movies that are incredible and you can't fault the acting, in those categories, but it is just the same thing repackaged, and it's the same faces and it's the same characters, and like, we've seen it and it's great and it's, it's a great storylines, but it's the same. And what I love so much about Sinners is that it's different, and the plot goes here, there, everywhere. I didn't know where we were going to be next, and I just was fully immersed in it. I feel so proud that there's people on it that I've worked with before, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they get the recognition they deserve, because wow. Wow, wow, wow. And I don't know, it's just exciting because I think sometimes I get frustrated or downhearted when I see a lack of, it's not even diversity. I think it's like visibility and people that look like me. And, everyone wants to see themselves in movies or see themselves represented, whether it's the writing or the producing or whatever. And I think when you at the top, if people aren't writing diverse stories, then they're never going to win awards, because from the very top, people aren't writing them. But with, Sinners being nominated and being, not necessarily as critically acclaimed as I thought it would be, to be fair. There's movies that I think at the box office did worse that are critically acclaimed more. I don't want to dip my toes into why that is. I wouldn't like to assume, but it's definitely interesting to see certain things being snubbed and others, not being snubbed. And that world seems very complex, I'm sure. But I'm hoping that it opens the door for so many more new stories. And I think people really want that. I think people love comfort and they love seeing the same things as well. But I think they also want new stories. People want to create, something new. And I think hopefully it shows that when you take a risk and a gamble on something new, that it can pay off and that people do enjoy it. I think I might actually create a letterbox, maybe, because I'm a lurker on Letterboxd, but I like write down to myself what I think or speak to my friends, but I've like been too scared to like create my own letterbox for some reason. I think I just like lurking and reading other people's. Okay. Also, news for this week. I don't know if anyone has watched Nobody Wants This, but I had the craziest thing happen. And on this podcast, I'm probably not going to talk that much about, my personal life or dating, but I feel like I had to share how crazily funny this situation was. I was going on a date with someone. They were great, amazing. And we get into, what we do for work. And obviously I've just started podcasting. And so, I don't know if I actually told them that was a podcaster. I honestly can't remember, but I know I'm a podcaster. And then, we go on to what they do, and they are a trainee rabbi. Can you believe it? And I don't know if anyone has watched Nobody Wants This. And I thought, wow, nobody wants it. Nobody's going to believe me that this is a real situation. And honestly, it was a great date. Who knows? But yeah, I had to share with the group, because I thought, wow, the similarities are uncanny. But no, I am in my single girl era, and I intend to stay that way if I can help it. So we are going to move on. I have decided to introduce a new little segment. Let's just see how it lands. I'm going to do it. Let's see how it lands. So this segment, I'm going to talk about my nemeses. Nemeses. And I believe a nemesis is slightly different to an enemy, you know? It feels, I don't know, it's lighter but more serious at the same time. And I'm just going to be talking about one nemesis per episode. But my nemesis for this episode is we're going to start and we're going to throw it back all the way to 2005. And I'm going to start off by, you know, kind of prefacing, whatever, that it's not his fault. It is not his fault, but he is, in fact, on my nemesis list. And that person is Jamie Oliver. Jamie Oliver. I was a 9-year-old that was minding my goddamn business, and I wish he minded his. And, you know, at school, every Friday or every other Friday, I think we would have turkey twizzlers. And it was the one thing, and maybe like this says more about me as a kid and, you know, how much I love food. But I looked forward to it so much. Turkey Twizzler Friday. I think all my friends did. We were so excited. Turkey Twizzlers, they were fun. They were round. It was a whole experience and they were delicious. Probably had zero meat in. I could not tell you what meat was in there. I don't want to know. But they were delicious. And I remember one day, did they tell us in an assembly? Or I don't know how they told us, or maybe our parents, they sent a letter home to the parents. But one day, they were off the shelves. They're off the menu, and didn't come back again. And that was all down to our man, Jamie Oliver. He decided he wanted to get himself busy and get involved in things that he had no business involving himself in. And that was Turkey Twizzler Fridays. And, you know, to be fair, he probably did me a solid, and maybe like my arteries would be like more blocked now, or, you know, whatever. But like at the time, 9-year-old me didn't understand that. I didn't know, you know, I thought they were just turkey, to be fair as well. And I remember thinking, Jamie Oliver, dear diary, Jamie Oliver, Nemesis list. This is me at 9 years old. Nemesis list. Jamie Oliver. I mean, I was dyslexic at 9, so I don't think I was spelling Nemesis, but, you know, bear with me. And again, it's not his fault, but he is on the Nemesis list and he is blocked. So come back to listen next time to see my next solo episode. I'll be telling you who my next Nemesis is. But Jamie Oliver made it on the list since circa 2005. I would love to know, actually, do you know what? And I'm just thinking about this in real time. If I would love for people, I'm going to put, I mean, the comments are obviously always open on Spotify, and they're open on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. But I would love for people to DM me, write in, send me an email. Who is your nemesis and why? And I will read out the best 5. Or the funniest 5, your nemesis. And then I'll do that every week. Look at me planning in real time. But yeah, I would love to know. I mean, I have a few more on this list, but I'm going to save it for later on. I would love to now talk about our final, I think this is going to be the final segment, is talking about coming to the end of your 20s. So I am 29. Sorry, that was really... And do you know what? I wrote that I was going to do the New Girl 29 thing, and I knew it was going to be cringe as I wrote it. And I thought, actually, don't say it. Don't do it. And I did it. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I think I'm inherently cringe. And if I'm not embarrassed by myself, then, you know, what can you do about it? Anyway, I'm 29. It is, you know, I'm 30 this year. And I think that does make you very reflective. I'm in a very reflective time in my life. Last year was the year of the snake. Now is the year of the mega horse, or the big horse. what's it called, mate? The fire horse, the mega horse. It's the year of, sorry. It's the year of, sorry. It's not the mega horse. It could be. If you want it to be the mega horse, it could be the mega horse. But it is the year of the fire horse, which means we need to be locking in now. It is apparently a great year. If you have your goals that you want to achieve locked down, we shedded our skin in the year of the snake, and now we are ready to go on that fiery horse. I actually Googled what my star sign and the fire horse meant together, and it said nothing short of trials and tribulations, which I really regretted Googling. And that's where the spiraling of, like, you know, trying to work out your star sign and what certain things mean for your year, I have to tap out. I mean, it didn't say you were going to have a bad year, but it said, like, if you want to achieve your dreams, you have to lock in and you need to make sure you're doing things intentionally and da-da-da-da. Otherwise, you could be led astray. And I read that and I thought, well, great. You're already setting me up with a challenge and we're not even in February. But you know, it is my final year of being in my 20s, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know about anyone else listening to this, if they're in their late 20s or 30s or, you know, whatever age you're in. But I personally, when I was growing up and I was little, I thought I was going to be married by like 24, because 24 in my head was so old. You know, when you're like 11, 12, 24 is so old. So I thought I was going to be like married by 24, kids by like 26, 27, and then like achieving my dreams, you know, after that. Like, I don't know. I guess I'd never kind of put together what, you know, maybe potentially having a family and achieving your dreams would look like separately. I just thought I could have it all, which I still do believe. But obviously, the older you get, the more challenges you are exposed to. And I just feel like there's so much pressure in your late 20s because you're no longer the young, hot, you know, really fertile thing anymore. And they love to, you know, really remind us that it's our fault that we're not continuing the, you know, the DNA line, and we need to get better at, you know, making men feel better at mating with us, or whatever the conversation is at the moment. And it's just a lot of pressure. And I don't know, I definitely do want a family, whatever that looks like, you know, but I also have a lot of big dreams, and I want to be able to be the best mom I can ever be. And I think to be able to do that, I need to have achieved what I want to achieve. And also, I want to be in a financial situation where I can give them everything they, you know, ever would need, hopefully. And obviously, you know, a lot of these things are completely out of our control. And I, you know, I think the oldest for an entire generation of a person without kids. I think I come from a family that had kids very young. So it's definitely, you know, pretty a unique situation that I am in my late 20s and still don't have kids. But I don't know. I think, I mean, to be fair, I just feel like I have a lot of feelings of, have I achieved enough? Have I done enough? You know, and there's so much pressure that you need to have done this and that. And honestly, a lot of this is internal pressure. Some of it is external pressure. And I think social media is awful for this because, however, you know, I'm older and I should know better, but I still go online, and whether I'm consciously doing it or not, I definitely am comparing myself, whether I want to or not. You know, there is at times an internal voice being like, well, this person's 22 and they have achieved X, Y, and Z. They're on Forbes under 30. What are you doing, you lazy slob? You know, which is so crazy. And I listen to sometimes those negative self-talks and I say, okay, I hear you, but you're full of shit. You know, I try not to push down any of the kind of negative self-talk or doubt that I have. I try really receive it and be like, you know, thank you, but you're wrong. And, you know, I don't know. I've just been really thinking, what do I want to spend, or how, sorry, do I want to spend my last year of my 20s doing? And honestly, like, the 20s have been incredible and so painful, so challenging at once. You know that saying, like, who made me God's strongest soldier, or I don't want to be. I'm telling you, I am now a veteran. I would like to hand in my badge, hat, question mark. I don't know what armor I have, but I'd like to hand it all in, and I would like to kind of just sit into a softer life, if that's possible, because the trials and tribulations have been trialing and tribulating, and I am so grateful for it, honestly, and I mean that with all my heart, because there's no way I would be sitting where I am right now if it wasn't for any of those situations. I really do believe they all made who I am and made it possible and made me hungry and made me, want to achieve the things I want to achieve. But I would love just a little less if we could, whoever it is up there, if we could just tone it down a little bit. So for the kind of final part of this episode, I would love to just talk a little bit about a few things I personally want to leave in my 20s and have shed or will be shedding going into my 30s. The first one is being a people pleaser. And I feel like, I don't know if it was, I always was someone growing up that loved to make people laugh and, make sure people are okay. And I guess I lost my voice sometimes when it came to making sure I was okay. And it didn't matter. I felt like me being okay was not as important as other people being okay. And it just doesn't feel, I don't know. I felt like it made me really, I thought, if you put yourself before other people, that makes you so selfish. And, I do still believe in community. And I do believe that sometimes being a good friend does mean it is inconvenient, and I stand by that still. But that doesn't mean you have to be a people pleaser and you have to dishonor yourself. And I am happily leaving being a people pleaser in my 20s. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And I don't know. I think you actually don't please people when you're a people pleaser. You actually displease them consistently. And people like when you're straight up. And I think I'm a very direct and straight up person. And I think, I intend to be even more like that going into my 30s. So watch out. Okay, number 2 is surface level friendships. And honestly, I don't necessarily feel like I'm a person that has had many, if any, surface level friendships growing up. I still have friends that I met when I was in nursery, and friends from school, and friends from college, and friends from university. I have been very good at keeping the really special ones close to me, but I've definitely been caught up in a trap where I've been friends with people that either don't have my best interests at heart or are just not my people, and I just felt like, there's been times I've definitely had, not a lot, but a few friends where I just think I don't think you actually like me. I don't think we are each other's people. And, whether it's surface level or deep, or we're just not compatible as friends. And I think, living in a big city, you're a lot more fortunate, I think, to be able to get out there and find your people a lot more, But if you are from a small town and there isn't these big events you're going to, and it is, the people are the people you've grown up with, and it's a lot harder to make new friends. But I promise you, your people are out there, and there is such an array of people out there. Your people are there, and maybe your people aren't in that town that you grew up in, and maybe you need to find them somewhere else in the UK, or honestly, somewhere else in the world. But I honestly think there is a group of people for everyone, and you deserve relationships that are rich and people that, feed you as much as you feed them. And I think the last, however many years, certain things that I've gone through, I do not know how I would have survived. I just don't think I would have survived without my friends. And I am, this is my a little love letter to them. I adore you. Thank you so much for holding me down. And I'm so grateful that is something I'm going to bring into my 30s, is having really deep and rich friendships. And then what is the last one? I think the last one I'm probably going to leave behind in my 20s is being afraid. Being afraid. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize I thought I was a very brave person, but like the older I get, the more fear I seem to accumulate. And I don't know. I don't remember being a kid being that insecure. Like I was definitely insecure about, my body or certain things, but not when it came to doing new things or doing new activities or pursuing my interests or things that I love or performing or whatever it was. But the older I've got, the more I'm so scared to be perceived. And I have been stuck in a kind of a loop of, I want to start this thing, but I want to be good at this thing. And if I'm not good at this thing, I don't want to start this thing because I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to do something and be bad at it. And then people to see me and be like, ha, 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 look at her trying to be da, 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 da. She thinks. Now, look at me. I've started a podcast. Who's going to be good at something they've just started when everyone has to go through a phase of learning and growing, and you can only become an expert by doing. And I really believe that, obviously studying as well, but by doing, you have to be brave, you have to take risks. And I think I spent the last few years really, really scared about doing and being brave, and I'm just done with being scared. And I'm leaving being scared behind in my 20s. My 30s are for being brave. And I really implore anyone that is listening to do the same. And it can be something, you can start with something so small. It doesn't even need to be quitting your job and moving to Hawaii. If that's what you want to do, by all means, as long as you're not leaving a family behind. But it can be something so small as, if you've always wanted to, write poetry, start writing those poems to yourself and self-publish it. Like, who cares? Like, I don't think, I think everyone who has done something new has had self-doubt, but you just don't grow when you are stuck in that self-doubt. So they are my top 3 things I'll be leaving behind. I'll probably keep talking about things I'll be leaving behind in my 20s as I move through my last year. But yeah, they are my last 3. Okay, so that is me coming to an end. Thank you for listening to me. If you could like and subscribe this, it really helps. It helps me get more guests. It helps me find you guys. I would love to connect more with people. I love connecting with people. I love talking to people and I love connecting with people. And that is what I love the most about doing this podcast. So comment, like, subscribe, get in touch, send me stories about who your nemesis are, and then I will read it out in my next solo episode. Okay, thank you so much for listening. Love ya.